Okay, hello, my name is Madeline Mumbert. I'm here with my preceptor, Dr. Lisa Hansen. My student ID number is 3251089, and this is my ID. And we will start with our Q&A part of the video.
Okay, so regarding radiation monitoring, what is a radiation monitoring device called?
So those are called dosimeters or dosimetry badges.
How does it work to measure exposure to radiation?
The badges pick up on the frequency that's emitted through radiation exposure and production.
How do we obtain readings?
We make sure that we wear the badge anytime we're taking an x-ray, and then we send the badges in to have their levels read. And this can be done on a quarterly, biannual, or annual basis, and they send reports back that are measured in millirems.
When should it be worn?
You should wear the badge at all times, whether you're taking the x-ray or assisting with taking an x-ray, and then just be sure not to leave it in the x-ray room when you're not in there.
Where should it be worn when taking x-rays?
The dosimetry badge should be clipped onto the outside of either your gown or your thyroid collar. That way it measures appropriately.
What is the MPD for veterinary staff annually?
So the MPD, which stands for maximum permissible dose, is 5,000 millirems on an annual basis.
Using a dosimetry report, show yourself interpreting the dosimetry readings for one team member.
Okay, so this, Vera, if you'll come closer. This is a quarterly dosimetry report. So on this, these rows are all of our employees. And then if you follow, we'll do mine because I'm at the bottom. If you follow across, it shows the wear period. So this is the quarter that it measured. And then there's 3 different columns here. There's a current dose, a dose for the year, and then a lifetime dose. And they're all measured in millirems. ND stands for not detectable, but the numbers here are what we're looking to measure. And so if it's 5,000 millirems on a yearly basis, that's obviously under 5,000, so that's acceptable.
Are those good?
Yeah.
Okay. So moving on to general radiation safety, listen and explain the 3 methods of restraint used in radiology.
So the 3 methods are manual restraint, where you actually have your hands on the patient. There's non-manual restraint with sedation, and then there's non-manual restraint using your positioning aids. And we'll go over the 3 positioning aids in just a second.
Discuss and show 3 positioning aids that are used. Oh,
Yeah, we'll go over that in just a
okay.
second.
That's good. Discuss physical protective barriers that can be utilized in the radiology suite other than PPE.
So besides the gear that you'll wear, there are movable screens that are used in some clinics, and then there's also walls that contain lead that can be a protective barrier as well.
Explain how to distance and the exposure time setting on the machine can be utilized as safety measures.
So you want to use the fastest exposure times possible, and the further away you are from the primary beam, the less radiation you're exposed to.
Explain why no portion of any human, shielded or unshielded, should be exposed to the primary beam. Do not simply state that no one should be exposed to the beam because it is dangerous.
So the primary beam has the densest amount of radiation that can kill cells in your body, so that's why you don't ever want to keep a body part under the primary beam or look at the primary beam when you're taking a radiograph.
Explain why non-essential personnel should be removed from the X-ray suite during exposures.
Because that reduces the number of people that are exposed to scatter radiation.
Explain why we should make every effort to obtain diagnostic images on the first exposure.
Because with each x-ray, you're exposing yourself and your assistant and the animal to more rays, so you want to take the least amount of images possible to get your diagnostic shot.
Explain the significant reasoning for restrictions on pregnant women and people under the age of 18.
So those people included, the under 18 and pregnant women, you don't want to expose to radiation because it can damage growing cells. So people that are growing, you want to keep away from the radiation suite. And then, thank you, Dr. Hansen. If you'll follow me, we'll go to our radiology suite real quick to show our positioning aids. So we have 3 examples here that we will use in the video. We have sandbags that come in a few different sizes. These are used to weigh down extremities when you're doing a non-manual restraint. We have tape that you can use, and this serves the same purpose. It keeps the animal still when you're doing non-manual restraint. So you can tape a limb down, or you can tape limbs together to get the best shot. And then these are V troughs in a couple different sizes. These keep animals balanced for x-rays, mostly used in VD shots. And then for our PPE, we have our lead gowns on this rack. We have our lead thyroid collars as well. We have our gloves, and then on the outside of the room, so that we don't get false readings, we have all of our dosimetry badges hung up. The important thing to do before you put on your PPE is to inspect it each time. That way there's no tears or anything that can falsely expose you to radiation without you knowing it. Okay, so today we will be demonstrating a radius ulna radiograph on a feline patient. To begin, we'll order up our study on our desktop, so we'll make sure that we're in exposure mode. We'll register our study. We'll select work list, select today, and this cat's name is Chloe, so we'll double click here, and it's ready on the desktop. On our x-ray machine, it's already highlighted Chloe, so we'll set our parameters. This is a feline patient, and we'll select the front limb. The cranial caudal x-ray is pretty much the same thing as a DV or dorsal ventral, so we'll select this, and then we'll take our measurement. This is our sedated patient. So we're going to use our calipers, and we're going to measure the mid shaft of the radius ulna, which is approximately 2 centimeters. So we'll make that adjustment on our machine. Okay. And then before I take my x-ray, I've already put on my PPE, which is my personal protective equipment, excuse me. That includes my lead gown, lead thyroid collar, and my dosimetry badge on the outside of my gown. I have lead gloves if I need them, but I'll be using tape as my aid. And our clinic does not have protective eyewear, but knowing that, I'll make sure that when I take my x-ray, I'll look away from the primary beam. To position my patient, I will use my light and these knobs to adjust my window. So we're going to want to collimate it so that you get the carpus in there and the elbow. And that way you'll be sure that you get your whole radius and ulna in the same x-ray. So we'll tape his paw down. We'll shorten our window a bit. Actually, let's shorten our window first. Okay. And we'll put our marker in here. Okay. I'm going to take my x-ray, make sure that I look away from the beam. And that is our radiograph. Okay, so today we will be demonstrating a VD thorax radiograph on a canine patient. This is him. His name is Hercules. The first step is we will order up our study on our desktop. So we'll make sure that we're in exposure. We'll hit register study up here. We'll make sure we're in work list. And when we hit today, it'll pull up all the animals that have been ordered up for today. So this is Hercules. We'll double click on him. And now it's ready to shoot on the desktop. Over on the x-ray machine up here, we'll select next patient. It's already highlighted on Hercules. We'll set our parameters. It's already on canine. We'll select the thorax option up here. And then we'll be starting with a VD, excuse me. Next we'll take our calipers and we'll measure him. For VD, you want to measure the last rib. So 11. Before I take my x-ray, me and my restrainer are wearing our PPE, which is protective, or personal protective equipment. So we're wearing our lead gowns, our thyroid collars, and then we each have our dosimetry badges on to measure our radiation. Next step is taking the actual radiograph. We have a V trough in here so that he'll stay balanced while we take our x-ray. My restrainer will hold the front limbs and I'll hold the back limbs. So we'll kind of switch places here. Okay. We'll flip him into position. And our window needs to be lined up to where this border is at his thoracic inlet. This border needs to be roughly at the first lumbar vertebra. And then the side borders are on each side of his thorax. And then we'll have our marker in as well. Okay, and since we don't have protective eyewear, we're going to look away from the primary beam when we take our x-ray, so we'll depress the lever here. And that's our radiograph there. Okay, today we will be demonstrating a OFA quality hip radiograph on a sedated canine patient. This is Hercules, he's been sedated. The first step, again, is to order up our study. So over an exposure, we will register our study, make sure we're in work list, and then it drops down all of the patients that have been ordered up for today. So we'll click on Hercules. Our desktop is ready. On our x-ray machine, we'll select our patient. It's already highlighted on Hercules. We'll set our parameters, and then we'll select hip. To measure, we'll need to roll him because we'll be shooting through this part here. So the measurement comes at about 8. And we'll select VD. Okay. And me and my restrainer are wearing our PPE, which includes our lead gowns, lead thyroid collars, and our dosimetry badges. And she will be helping me restrain the front limbs, and I'll be doing the hind limbs. So our machine is ready. We'll get our patient in the V trough. That's one of our aids that we'll be using. And when we adjust our window, we want the top border to be at his ilium crest, the bottom border just distal to his patellas, and we want to center kind of here, but these borders need to be pulled in also. Our marker will slide under our V trough. And for the first shot, we'll use some aids. In addition to the V trough, we'll use a sandbag to drape over the patient's feet. And then we'll use a piece of tape. We'll kind of anchor him down right above his knees to kind of pull his stifles in medially. Okay. Then she'll extend the front limbs. We'll try a shot like this. We're looking away from the primary beam. We'll depress on our lever. And if you look at the x-ray, this probably would not suffice for OFA because the hips or the knees are kind of bowed out and you want them rotated more medially. So and you want these also sitting parallel. So we're gonna not use the aids this time. I'm going to put on some gloves and we're going to try and rotate the stifles more medially to get a better shot, and then we'll need to move our marker in as well. So we'll take the aids away. He just has really robust hips, so we'll need to pull him in more. We'll hit new exposure. Again, we're taking a VD. that shot's more acceptable. Everything's parallel, and if he did have a long tail, we'd need that tail to also be parallel to his patellas, but he has a little nub, so this shot, and then the marker's also in there. It's not occluding any bones, so this shot would qualify for OFA. Okay, so now I will be demonstrating how to retrieve a study from our software. So this is how it normally looks. It's in exposure mode, which just means it's ready to take x-rays. But if I want to go back and pull studies and retrieve them from previous days or earlier today, then I'll go into our database. I'll select today. We're going to look for Emma, who's a pug that we took skull radiographs of today. And it pulls down every study that's been ordered up today, their times, patient ID, and their name. So we're going to select, double click on Emma. It pulls up the whole study down here, but if you want to blow up each individual item, you just double click on it. Okay, so today we'll be demonstrating a barium study. Hercules is back as our patient. We'll be giving him barium, and we'll give him approximately 15 cc's. He did eat a little earlier, so we're going to give him a little more than we usually would. That way it'll show up on our study. We'll go ahead and give this to him real quick. Sorry, buddy. Sorry. It's in your sleeve. That's why I wear it. It's okay, Puppers. It's okay. It's okay. It's okay. It's okay. Good boy. Yeah, it's a good boy. Almost there, buddy. I'm sorry. Snips. Okay. Hold on, I need to put his face with chill out, bud. Good job. He says, okay, I'm full. Sorry. Please. Here, let's use this. So. Okay. Alright, now we'll move to X-ray. So we'll go ahead and order up our study again on our desktop. So we'll make sure that we're in exposure. We'll register our study, hit work list, hit today, and it'll pull up everybody from today, and then we'll select our patient. So Hercules Hansen. On our x-ray machine, we're going to start with a lateral, and then we'll do VD next. So we'll select canine, and we're going to be taking a view of his abdomen, so we'll select here. We'll grab our calipers, and for a lateral abdominal view, you want to measure the last rib. So 11. So we'll select lateral, and then we'll adjust our measurement to 11. And then we'll get our protective equipment on, or our PPE. So that'll include each of us wearing a lead gown, our lead thyroid collars, and our dosimetry badges as well. We don't have our protective eyewear at this clinic, so we'll keep in mind that when we take our x-ray, we'll look away from the primary beam. muzzle our patient for safety. Okay, so I'll switch sides with you. So to collimate our window for a lateral abdominal view, you're going to want this border here kind of at the xiphoid process. So you still want the diaphragm and the apex of the heart in there, but not the whole chest. And then this border is going to be ending at the hip joint. These borders are going to squeeze in so that we reduce our scatter radiation, and then we'll include our marker. So we're going to flip our patient on its side, feet towards us. So we'll collimate here. We're going to scoot them towards you a little bit. Extend his front limbs forward. And we'll take our shot and we'll look away from the beam. 1, 2, 3. Okay, that's our lateral. And then back on the x-ray machine, we'll hit new exposure for our VD. We'll select VD. We're going to flip him onto his back. And you want your center beam kind of at the center of his scapula for these. We'll keep our marker here because he's still on his right side. And we'll look away from the beam.
Hi, I'm Lisa Hansen, owner and operator of Benning Lane Animal Hospital. I've been working with Maddie over the last 4 to 6 weeks as she's been taking her radiology course and assisting her through some of her filming and her questions alongside when she's doing her courses. I've noted that some of her strengths during her course is that this has made her very knowledgeable. She's very self-aware to some of the hazards associated with radiology, how to provide adequate and optimal patient care to make sure that the animals aren't getting overexposed, that her coworkers too are not getting overexposed, and that are being diligent with their services. Some of the weaknesses that would be to be note would be that her technical skills are great. She knows how to be very efficient and work through the problem. A lot of the downfall would be is that she doesn't know the exact image that the doctor would want at all times. But that'll come with practice. The more times that she has the opportunity to shoot these desired films, the more accurate she'll get to the desired positioning of the animal when it comes to certain types of orthopedic films. Outside of that, I think that Maddie's done a great job. She's definitely grown in her knowledge and her skill sets thanks to this course, and she's doing great. We're very proud of her.